What's going on, everybody? It's Coach Bronson here, and today I have the honor of talking to Kristen Rowell. Kristen, how you doing today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Doing fantastic. We met. It's almost been like 3 years, I think. At in where was it? In Utah? No, not in Utah.
I think it
In
was it KetoCon? I was thinking it was
no, it
KetoCon.
was it was Nebraska. It was at
Yes, Hard to Kill Summer.
Dr. Seaman's first thing. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So there a lot has happened in that time, right? We've had the pandemic. We've had. I'm sure there's tons of changes business wise with things we've been doing, all sorts of stuff. What have you been up to lately?
So my primary business, Bronson, is coaching. I
Okay.
always say higher performers or executive level humans to
Yeah.
help get all of the obstacles out of their way so that they are able to really focus on what do they need to eat and how do they need to behave to thrive. So my
Okay.
clients are, since my background is as a trial lawyer and then I transitioned into becoming a nutritional therapist, it's
Mhm.
really lawyers, executives, doctors, investment bankers, realtors, mortgage lenders, moms, dads, those
Yeah, yeah.
people who are very busy. And as I always tell them when they first decide whether they're going to hire me, I said, look, I'm going to be really honest with you. In my opinion, being fit and healthy is part of your job.
Ooh, I like it.
And the reason I tell them that is because, as you and I know, it's more than just about looking good naked. It's more than just about feeling like you look awesome in a bikini or swim trunks or whatever. We now know that being fit and healthy is really important for your brain. It's obviously
Yes.
important for your heart. But what I care about a lot is I need your brain health to be good. I need your energy to be good. I need you to be in a good mood, which means you can't have horrible gut health. You're going to serve your clients who are or patients who are all relying on you to make really important decisions that
Mhm.
start the moment you get out of bed in the morning. And so you need to look at this as something that you have to do to make your own career better.
I love that. I love that. We're talking about life performance. So this is whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, or you're a plumber, right? There's still responsibilities in a job, and a lot of people use the stress of work as an excuse not to do things.
Yeah,
How
it's
often
so
do you
true.
hear that? How often you have to just squash that excuse?
Yeah, often. It's interesting that you say that. I'll give you one example, which is an executive level woman that I was working with last year for a period of time. And this woman was legitimately, and I said, I have a lot of clients who I think start this way and don't end this way with me, which is they're literally chained to their desk.
Right.
So I'm at a meeting with her and it's 6 o'clock at night because I sometimes will do evening meetings for my very busy professionals. And I said, okay, I want you to, because I had gotten her to purchase an Aura ring. So she hadn't looked at it yet that day. And I said, I want you to tell me what your steps are at right now at 6:30 at night. And
Mhm.
she honestly, Bronson, was only at about 2,500 steps.
Wow.
Can you imagine? So,
Wow.
so what I explained to her then is I said, listen, I have you wearing this device, this tool, so that you can have more awareness about what you actually are and aren't doing.
Yeah.
2,500 steps, just for the listeners, as you know, Bronson, is miserably bad in terms of movement in a day. It's real bad. So
Yeah.
I always tell my clients I want them at least at 10,000. If I can get them doing a little more, great.
Mhm.
But 2,500 tells me you woke up, you maybe moved around your house a few steps, and then you went to your office and you literally sat all day. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that contributes to our allostatic load, which is our stress bucket, is are you sedentary? A,
Right.
sed- a sedentary lifestyle is a stressor. And people think, well, working out is stressful and moving is stressful. No, it's not. You need to move. Our bodies were designed to move. We were never designed to be behind a desk sitting all day long. It's just not the way our bodies function optimally.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you talk about allostatic load because it's something that I love talking about the difference between hormetic stress, chronic stress, acute stress, all the different stressors, and how I honestly get frustrated when people are so focused on the minutia of, oh my gosh, you have to manage your cortisol, reduce your stress. But look, there are stressors, and it's about managing the overall load. Some stressors will be bad, some stressors will be good. If you are always in the bad stress, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean you avoid stress altogether. And I think people miss that message.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to get back to your original question to me, which is sort of what have you been up to? It's that I'm coaching these one-on-one clients. And
Yeah.
so I'm writing meal plans for them. I'm doing nutrition, but just apropos of your point and this allostatic load concept, I'm also getting them in to see an acupuncturist,
Ooh.
connecting them with a strength training gym, getting them to do food sensitivity testing if they need it. But I
Mhm.
have a lot of clients who frankly present to me in complete fight or flight. And I recognize it because I always say that's the old me. I lived that way for so many years. I
Ooh,
wouldn't
okay.
have
We're
been
going to
able
talk
to
about that.
spot, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to spot myself in a parasympathetic state if you paid me a million bucks. Like what does that even mean? What do you, parasympathetic, rest, digest, what? So I can see this from a mile away now. And I said, look, I just need you to do something like try this particular acupuncturist because I need you to land in your body. I need you to
Mhm.
feel what it's like. And I'll explain to them that I do experiments on my body where, I'll wear my blood sugar monitor and I'll go into acupuncture and there is nothing that lowers my blood sugar other than fasting. Other than fasting, there is nothing that lowers my blood sugar more than acupuncture. I wake up off
Interesting.
that table, it plummets. If it was in the 90s, it plummets into the low 70s, high 60s while I'm on the table, and then it'll come back up when I'm done. So it's really good for people who are high wired like we are to
Yeah.
have lifestyle practices like that. So I work on that with my clients too. And then the other thing I do is I speak around the country. I spoke yesterday or a couple of days ago now to a group of wealth manager financial advisors. I'm going to be speaking, of course, at Hard to Kill in Omaha this year.
Yep.
So I really get my bucket filled up with that. And then I do have a couple different group courses, but largely what I'm doing day in and day out is coaching. And I always say I'm helping people look better and feel better so they can do better.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at your website in preparation for this, and I think I need to steal your design because I really love the way. Is that new?
It is new. Yes.
Okay.
So I had sort of one of these basic websites that was put up by someone I hired right when I started my business.
Yeah.
And it was fine. It served the purpose, but I really desired my website to be something I own and that showcases all aspects of the business. So I
Yeah.
hired a team. I'm happy to give you that info offline. They're
Yeah.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
And they were recommended to me. And now I've recommended them to people. They're really, really good. Yeah.
Okay.
And they actually
Yeah.
are
Yeah. No, I
just
think
fun.
looking at the site, they did a good job. I don't know if they did your branding, but your branding, energetically efficient, I think is awesome. Everything, when I look at your site, it's all you. Like that's
Thank you. Thank
fantastic.
you. That was the goal. So I appreciate
And
that.
I just got rebranded and did a bunch of stuff, but I'm doing my site myself, and I'm like, there's more things I want to do with it. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So how did you get into all of this? You're speaking, you're coaching, you used to be a lawyer, you
Yeah.
stopped doing, like, what's your story? How did all this stuff come about?
So going back to sort of, I'd say what is in hindsight, the pinnacle of what changed everything for me
Yeah.
was in December of 2013. I was on a work trip as a lawyer. I was in
Mhm.
Williston, North Dakota. I was coming to the airport. So I was walking into the airport, about to fly back to Minneapolis, which is where I live. Now, I did a tremendous amount of real estate litigation when I was practicing. So, of course, when I was out there, this was sort of the fallout from the height of the oil boom. There was lots of litigation in North Dakota. So I was literally in that whole area. As I'm walking into the airport, I realize I forgot my phone in my client's car.
Oh no.
And so the client who drives a Suburban, because she's got children, and I'm with my business partner, my law partner, he's walking in the airport ahead of me. And I say to him, hang on, I forgot my phone. So I run back to the Suburban and it's a 25 below zero weather day. And we're in it's the middle of December. And this is just sort of the life we have to live up here in Minnesota, North Dakota for a month out of the year. So I'm running back. And as I grab the handle of the door, which is the back door, because I had been sitting in the back seat, I grab the handle, either a patch of ice or the curb or something. We still don't know how it happened. I wiped out, I fell, and I broke my leg in 10 places.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a massive, massive break. In fact, the orthopedic surgeon said to me when I went in for surgery the following week, he said, wow, you're lucky you didn't shatter it. And I said, well, if this isn't shattering, what is it?
Yeah. What? That's wow.
Yeah. So I was lifted by the ambulance, I shouldn't say airlifted. The ambulance came and brought me to the hospital in Williston. And then I was able to take a flight home a day or two later to go and have the surgery in Minneapolis the next week. But they put me on tons of drugs. I was screaming bloody murder. The pain was the worst I'd ever experienced in my life. And the only reason when I fell that I knew I broke my leg the second it happened, even though I had never broken a bone in my body, is three things. Number one, I heard it. It sounded like a tree breaking in the woods. Number two, like I said, it was the worst pain. And then number three, when I looked down, laying on my back on the ground, I looked down and I could see my knee was going one way and my foot was going the other way. And I was like, that doesn't sound good. So at that point, Bronson, I had run almost 20 marathons. I was already very strong. I had been weightlifting from the age of 14. Like I watched my dad get up and lift weights in our basement or go to the YMCA before work. And I admired that. I admired his work ethic and his drive. And he was always very fit. He was a runner. So I wanted to do that. So I was interested in exercise at a really, really young age. So for me, when this accident happened, it was a big wake up call to say, hold on a second. Do you have some sort of latent osteoarthritis that you're not aware about, or osteopenia, something that was happening in my body that I might not have been aware of? Thankfully, I didn't have that. Or number two, are you actually absorbing the nutrients that you're eating? Are you even eating the right stuff? How did this happen to you when you seemingly thought you were so healthy? Do you have clients like this where they think they're healthy, they think they're doing all the right things? I see this all the time. And the reality was I had run every single marathon up until that point, save for the one right before this accident, almost fully carb fueled, booze during the entire race. I got to the point in May of 2012 where I had to take a goo every 5 miles because I was so carb fueled. I needed the juice. Can you imagine the havoc on your gut?
Your body just couldn't do anything on its own.
No, I did pasta the night before, the whole program that we run as marathoners.
Yeah.
And so after I had this accident, it's like the universe always brings you gifts. And I started to see a chiropractor / physical therapist for some of my rehab. And he was a pretty wiry guy, but he was an ultra runner. Some of these ultra runners like Zach Bitter and these guys are pretty lean.
Yep.
So I started to ask him, I was like, what do you do when you're out there running 50 miles or 100 miles, And he said, oh, I eat a ton of fat. And I was like, wait, what? This was mind blown. January 2014, like, wait, what? So I started to really get curious about it. And then I really started to change things up that year in 2014. 2015, I ramped it up even more. And I said, when I make my comeback marathon in October of 2015, I'm going to do it fat fueled. So the night before that race, because I had all the metal, I had 22 pieces of metal put in December 2013, had all that metal taken out in December 2014. And then I was able to start running and really trained hard for the marathon that year. And so the night before I had steak, asparagus, and butter. The morning of, I had a packet of coconut butter, and I got a PR and ran my fastest race that I'd ever run. And I was totally fat fueled, and I ran a 3:19, and it was just awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And I felt good, of course.
But you need carbs to maintain performance, Kristen. What the heck?
Right? This is what we heard. I mean, I remember the first time I heard about intermittent fasting, I was talking to a friend, and I remember saying in response to some statement about intermittent fasting being good for you, I was like, no, that's going to shut down your metabolism. That's terrible. You have to keep the fire burning. It's so funny to me how programmed we are with so much nonsense that we don't even know where it came from. I have no idea where I'd heard that. It's not like I read a scientific paper that told me that, but we believe these things because I tell my clients all the time, part of my job is to deprogram you from everything you thought you knew about nutrition. Everything. And provide context, because from a fitness, nutrition, all of it perspective, some of those things are absolutely true, but it's based on what you're doing and the lifestyle you're living. If you are completely carb fueled, then you need to eat 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. But if you're not, then you don't. Like there's so many different things about the nuance of how to apply all this information. And I think that's where having a good coach comes into play, because you don't know that. Most people don't know where all that stuff lies. They hear something and go, oh, that's how it should be. Well, it's a great point. Hold on a second, because I tell my clients, I say, look, carbs and fat are your 2 sources of energy. And just visually, I'm kind of holding up my hands right now for anyone who's listening, because I say, these are my 2 sources of energy. And so when I titrate one up, I have to titrate the other one down. When I titrate the other one up, I have to titrate the other one down. And you're really just going back and forth between those for someone who's metabolically flexible and who enjoys eating carbohydrates from time to time. And they already have a lean, fit body and they have earned their carbs. I always say we have to earn them. And then protein, of course, is our macronutrient for recovery, for muscle building. And it's a very important one. But so I tell my clients, I say, so think about this. If you stick with me and understand that carbs and fat are the two sources of massive energy, what's the fastest way to get fat? What's the fastest way to put massive amounts of energy on our body? Eat carbs and fat together. Eat a lot of carbs and fat together. And what are these things? Ice cream, donuts, cookies, brownies, pasta,
well,
cakes,
because
all the things.
Carbs aren't enjoyable without fat.
Yes.
You know, I don't know any real food that I used to eat that was carbs that it wasn't like, oh, I'm eating the salad, but it's more because it's a vehicle for the salad dressing. I'm eating this garlic bread because it's a vehicle for the butter. I'm eating you know what I mean? Like it's.
Yes, it's such a good point. My ex-husband used to say that wedge salad is just a delivery mechanism to get blue cheese in his body.
Yes, exactly.
True.
So let's switch back to fitness for a second. You said that you grew up with fitness.
Yeah.
So you've run marathons, a lot of them, more than a normal person, any normal person should. I'm not a runner, by the way. I think people that run marathons need psychiatric interventions.
I totally get it. And I used to too. I set out to do one. I wanted to do
Really?
one my first year of law school to relieve stress. I thought everything I hear about lawyering it's the scariest thing in the world. You're going to be so stressed out. So I thought, okay, when I start law school, I'm going to just run a marathon that fall. And I thought I'd do one and done. And I got the bug and I got hooked. And here we are this many years later. It's wild to me to even say it out loud, Bronson. Like, I actually can't believe I've done it myself. It's bizarre.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. But you've been on both sides of the fence because you've also done bodybuilding.
Correct.
So
how does get on stage again?
How does that progression work? Oh, I'm running marathons forever. And let's stop that. I'm going to go get jacked and get on stage.
Yeah. So really the answer is after that leg break, when I couldn't run for a while, all I did was lift. And so I had lifted a lot before that, but all of a sudden I started to see, wow, when you're not stripping off any lean tissue with all this steady state cardio all the time, you can really get some serious gains and be cut. So it was during that journey of 2015, 16 that I thought, I think I want to actually step on stage and do this. And at some point in that time frame, I think August of 2016, it must have been, I turned 40. And so I did my first show in the spring of 2017. And I loved it and had a blast. I'm actually going to get on stage again at the end of the month. I haven't done a show since before COVID. So when I prep, I've done it a few different ways, but I do my favorite preps and what I like for my body is I do 3 days in a row of low carb. And then I do 1 day of high carb and 3 days in a row of low carb and 1 day of high carb. And it's simply because I don't do long preps. So I want to, in a shortest period of time, how can I put on a ton of lean muscle tissue and take off as much body fat as possible all at the same time? And that's been very effective for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. What about your workouts? How did your workouts change from running? Well, two things. How did your workouts change and how did your body change from the two different modalities that you were focused on each time?
So I'd say that when I was running and doing steady state cardio all of the time, number one, I was a little more inflamed. I noticed that about me. So I noticed when I cut out so much of that steady state cardio, it seemed that, a small amount of puffiness or something that I seemed to notice would dissipate, which is interesting. And then I also felt like I could go harder in the gym. So I was able to build more lean tissue. But just for the women listening, that doesn't mean I got bigger. I actually got smaller. Can you believe it? And I hold up my water bottle every time I show clients and I take off the top and I say the water bottle represents 10 pounds of fat. The top represents 10 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
What would you rather be? And I prepped for my show and my weight stayed exact same, but I gained 7 pounds of muscle and lost 5% body fat in a matter of like 4 to 6 weeks. And it was pretty remarkable progress. And I looked like a different person, but my weight stayed exactly the same. So I always tell my clients, Please don't be obsessed with a weight number. I want you to bod pod or a DEXA scan, and that's
Yep.
going to be our picture going forward. So to circle back to your question though about how did the workouts change and kind of what did things look like, where I previously had been running on Mondays, Wednesdays, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is kind of a lot. That's a lot of running. And then lift 2 days on top of that and somewhere. I really reduced it to just run for enjoyment and only do it like 2-3 days a week and focus more on the lifting. And I really also ramped up, of course, when you're prepping for a show, you really have to focus on sleep because we know that so much of that good lean tissue is made in your sleep. But I just, one of these nuts that enjoys running. So I do it, you know, just not as intensely when I'm getting ready for prep.
Right. Now you're prepping for a show.
Yeah.
You're a woman in your mid 40s.
Yep.
I thought that at this stage in your life, the last thing you wanted to do was stress yourself out by working out hard and doing all of these things so that your hormones don't go out of whack and go crazy and you totally screw yourself up.
I would love to know where that came from, wouldn't you?
I would absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, there's research that just came out. I'm sure you probably follow her. I have her book up here, Fast Over 40 by Cynthia Monteleone. I can never pronounce her last name. I just love her. But there's so much research about the fact that really what women at my age need to be doing is strength training heavy. And if they're going to go out and run, it's got to be shorter workouts that's sprinting hard. You do sprinting workouts. It's going to increase BDNF. There's so many hormonal benefits we get from stressing our system appropriately. Now I said appropriately. So we're going to stress our system appropriately by doing these shorter, more intense bursts and really focusing on strength training. The other thing I tell women, and I teach about hormones a lot because I find hormones fascinating, is that our hormones are like a fountain. So at the top of the fountain, if you think of like water cascading down a fountain that you would see in the middle of a city or a park, the top hormone, our master hormone that dictates and covers everything is oxytocin. And oxytocin is the love hormone. It's the cuddle hormone. It's what we release when we look into the eyes of someone we love. For women, when you breastfeed, you release oxytocin. People release oxytocin after they have an orgasm. It's the ooey gooey lovey, like I want more of that feeling, right? So first of all, I tell women, focus on getting more of that in your life, number one.
Yeah.
And then that hormone drives down to cortisol. So then cortisol is our stress hormone. And we want to make these hormetic stressors so that we become more resilient, so that we're not spiking cortisol all day long. And so that the smallest stupid stressor doesn't send us into a tailspin of insanity. So then we want to modulate our cortisol. And then of course, cortisol drives down to insulin. And then those three hormones, oxytocin at the top, then cortisol second, then insulin third, those are all above the sex hormones. Then they drive down to sex hormones. So our progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone, our estradiol, all those are driven in large part by what's happening at the top of the fountain. How much oxytocin do you release? What's your cortisol look like? Do you have insulin resistance, or are you strength training, clearing out any stored glycogen, and you're very insulin sensitive? People who are insulin sensitive and take care of themselves in strength training, I say, will sail through perimenopause and menopause with virtually no issue.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I love about talking fitness and helping people understand the importance of exercise and its effect on those three, right? So after a workout, you feel it's similar. It's not the cuddly ooey gooey. It's the confidence. It's the what's the word I'm looking for? It's the satisfaction, right? I just did something challenging. I accomplished something. I had success. I achieved. And then like you said before, you're helping your body manage stress better. So when it does have a stressor, it doesn't need to release as much cortisol. So you help manage cortisol in the long term and overall. Less spikes, right? Just like we don't want spiky insulin, we don't want spiky cortisol. And then all of the things that come with improved metabolic performance, improved muscle mass, everything else when it comes to insulin resistance. I think the exercise is such a unheralded component to people improving their quality of life. Everyone's so focused on nutrition, and their nutrition journey would be 10 times easier if they were doing more activity and more exercise.
I say this to clients all the time, Bronson, just to dovetail off that, because you're so right. The mornings I'm up in the gym, feeling really good, feeling satisfied, feeling accomplished, getting the workout done, I'm going to make better nutritional choices all day,
Oh,
every day, hands down.
absolutely. For sure.
There's that whole component of it too. So I love that when I can get my clients to start feeling the benefits of it. I always say coaching with me is experiential learning. So I'm
Ooh, I
going
like
to
that.
write you a meal plan. You're going to just follow it. Most of my clients tell me, just tell me what to eat. Just tell me what to do. And I said, listen, if you do what I say, I promise you, you will look and feel better. And so
Yeah.
it's really, when people are ready, they have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. I've had people do a discovery call with me and just not totally be ready. And then all of a sudden I hear from them 6 months later, they've gained another 20 pounds and now they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And everyone's on their own journey. I'm not judging that at all, because when you're
Sure.
ready, you're ready. And none of us are ready a moment before we're ready. But it's so exciting when I can see people start to make that transformation and just notice, like, I cry with my clients all the time just because of how proud I am of them. And when they tell me about some kind of milestone that's like significant to them, it might be something as simple as being able to go up the stairs without getting out of breath. And I'm
Absolutely.
in tears because I'm like,
Yeah.
you did not deserve to come here to this earth and suffer. None of us did. We
Yep.
were designed to be abundant, to be proud of who we are, to love who we look in the mirror, to feel joy. That's how we naturally are supposed to vibrate. And there's so much polarity and so much negativity around the world. It's like, I really work with my clients on energetically staying above that fray, because it's
Mhm.
hard not to get sucked into it. You
Yeah.
turn on the regular television, which I don't even have one and I haven't
Nope.
watched it in years, but I literally had someone DM me the other day and she said, how do you stay so positive with everything going on in the world? Which I thought was such an interesting question. And I
Stop
was like,
looking at what's going on in the world.
I stopped short of saying, wait, what's going on in the world? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right.
Because I kind of feel like not that I live in some utopian bubble, but almost, because I create my reality and
Sure.
I choose not to infiltrate my brain and my eyes and my ears with things that I don't want to learn about, because
Yeah.
it's just going to distract me from. I've said different things every year in January when it starts. One of the things this year and last year too was I'm really working on trying to create more than I consume,
Ooh,
because
I
we
like it.
all consume tons and tons.
Yeah.
The rabbit hole of the IGs and the other social medias, it can be such a time suck. And I thought, set it down and make sure you're creating and putting out good content for people that's educational, that they can use.
Mhm.
And that will come back to you in spades, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you see yourself on social media? This is an interesting question that just popped in my head as you talk about
Sure.
that. There are so many, I don't even know what the right word would be, buckets, I guess, that people would fall into. Influencer, coach, educator. I don't even know what the other ones would be. I find myself, I think there's very few people in the keto community space who, I think you might be one of the few, between Natalie, you know Natalie, right? Have you seen
Yep.
her keto
Oh, yeah.
before? So between you, me, Natalie, um, one or two other people, maybe Danny Conway. There's a handful that I think look at things differently than it's one specific part of nutrition. It's one specific part of biology. It's one specific part of exercise science. And that's going to be their shtick, their message, and that all they talk about. I'm the leptin resistance person. I'm the stress hormone person. I'm the this person. I'm the that person. And
Yep.
instead of talking about it from there's a lot of stuff going on, and this is about how you're living better kind of person.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great point.
I mean, so when people say, "Well, what do you do?" I'm like, well, I'm a coach. I don't think of myself as an influencer. I don't think of myself as a YouTube personality. I don't think of I don't know what bucket I would fall in on Instagram or the social medias. I just want people to understand that the things they're trying to do are more than the one thing they're looking at.
Yes. Yeah. I would say I don't know what bucket I would fall into either, Bronson, because it's so interesting, because you named several of them and there are probably several more we could come up with.
Yeah, right.
I do think of myself, at least this is my intention when I'm serving, when I'm out sharing content. There's a tiny piece of it that, of course, is entertainment and having people enjoy what they're consuming. But it's really about educating and, more importantly, showing people what's possible and
Ooh, I
what
like
they're
that.
actually capable of.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people look at people on social media and think, well, that's just too hard. And that person must have all this time, or that person doesn't have my job, or they don't have kids. And the truth is, all of those things are excuses.
Yeah.
because we all have 24 hours in a day. We all have 7 days in a week, and we get to choose how we spend our time. So when a client pushes back on me, because let's say I want them, I'm using a dumb example, I want them to consider ordering some particular online protein bars that you can't find in any stores, that are all made with real food, that you have to keep in the fridge, and that are really, really satiating and good real food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's supporting a really amazing small business that's owned by a couple. They'll be like, whoa, I looked at those are so expensive. And then my next question will be, how much did you spend on wine this month?
Yep.
Right? Or how much did you spend on the coffee shop, or I don't know, your Netflix bill, whatever. We all have choices about how we choose to spend our time and our money. And I feel like showing people what's possible, and that there's an easier way often to do things, or an easier way to think about fitness. I mean, my clients are so stressed out. This was so cute. One of my clients, I had sent her a meal plan yesterday, and very early this morning when I was on my way to the gym, I saw that she emailed back and said, okay, Kristen, for that second meal, you have me eating a couple of eggs with like the celery and the nut butter and those things. But remember, I'm going to be at the office, so I can't make eggs. So should I have the eggs at night? I mean, the topic of eating 2 eggs was so overwhelming to her in that moment. And I wrote back and I said, hey, silly, you can bring hard-boiled eggs to work. And if you want to, because you're so stressed out, which I can totally feel based on your email, you can even buy Vital Farms pasture-raised hard-boiled eggs that are already peeled for you. Now, they smell like vinegar to me, so I don't love them, but you can do that. So she just wrote back and was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. But when people are going 110 miles an hour and they have this way that they think of doing things, they see the word 2 eggs, and she's immediately picturing herself in front of a skillet thinking she has to scramble them. I'm like, whoa, how did we get there? But it's just thinking about things differently in general. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it's
No, I think that's great. Thinking about things differently is what we do, is help people realize when they're making that assumption or preconceived notion and how that's messing them up. I've had clients before that are like, I'm not sure I can change my eating schedule. I'm like, well, why not? Well, because this is how I've always done it. That mentality of, well, if I've been intermittent fasting for 2 years. Okay, is it working for you? Well, I haven't seen the changes that I'm wanting to see. Okay, well, then maybe we need to change. Well, how do I do that? Well, how did you start intermittent fasting in the first place? Like, you weren't doing, you had to make a change at one point. So you just do that again and come up with a different schedule and see what else is going to work. If you had to, so this is something I've been spending, one of my goals this year. I love how you talked about at the beginning of the year, you had to set a target, was being more clear and defining what my message actually was, and trying to, even though I'm in the keto carnivore community, not be just another nutrition voice. I want to be the quality of life. I want to talk more about how fitness impacts. And that's kind of what I've been doing, but being more clear in that message. And I have 3 things. One is I want people to understand the importance of fitness and its role in their life. I want people to understand that it's more accessible to them than they think it is. And then I want to give them options and solutions and ways to actually start doing something about it. If you were to summarize what your message is, what would you say your message is right now?
So just sort of thinking of this on the fly, the first thing that comes to mind is when I was trying to write the succinct 1-sentence thing for your LinkedIn bio, right?
There you go.
I said, I help high achievers look and feel better so they perform at their best. Okay. That would be like the 10,000 foot view.
Yeah.
But to make it a little more granular or nuanced, to use your word, which I love, I'd say one of my primary intentions, especially for women, even though I have clients that are men and women, is really driving home the importance of building lean muscle tissue. The importance of strength training, driving that home. I can't believe how many clients I work with for 3 months, 6 months, a year. And somewhere in, like they say, the 6-month client, somewhere in their journey, they're like, okay, I finally get it. I finally get why this is important. I sometimes take for granted that everyone understands building muscle is a good thing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I have conversations with people where I'm like, wait a second, what? And so especially for women as they age, I say we are in a race against time to put on as much lean muscle tissue as you can before menopause. It does not mean you can't put on lean muscle tissue after menopause. You can, but the more you have before you start menopause, the more muscle you have on your body and the more muscle memory you've created, the easier it is to put lean muscle tissue on after. You're just going to have a bigger uphill battle later on. So one of the things I would say is really about making sure that building lean muscle tissue is the most important. And then another thing would be what you choose to eat completely dictates how you feel about yourself, how much energy you have, and how you interact with others. It really does. There's a lot of studies about how much ultra processed food makes people have more sick days, is obviously very connected with depression.
Yeah.
They have horrible gut health. So people think it's like, well, it's all about how I look naked. It's actually also how you feel and interact with other humans, because it dictates the state of your gut health is, are you in a good mood or bad mood? And how much serotonin are you producing because you did or did not eat enough essential amino acids to actually create the raw material, have the raw materials necessary to create serotonin, right? So the two biggest
a hormone that doesn't use fat? Wait, hold on a second. Amino acids and hormones? Wait, you need to eat protein to have healthy hormones?
Right?
Hold on a second.
Who
I'm
knew?
confused. I'm confused. I thought it was all about the fat.
I know. It's so wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I tell clients, and I say at some point, just because I'm a lawyer, I'll trademark this. I want them to prioritize protein, fill in with fat, and then carefully add carbs.
Okay.
And I like it just because it's got, the matching letters. So it's something that people can follow. So that is a way I said, when you sit down to your meal, your first question is, what's my protein? What's my protein? What's my protein? And you can build the meal around that.
Yeah.
I think in this keto space, people get so programmed with building their meal around fat. Like, I just need more fat and more fat and more fat. I had an email exchange with a client this morning, in fact, where I said, I really am noticing that your pattern, because she follows my meal plans. And then after a period of time, I say, I want you to start experimenting, changing things out that I've said for you so that I can see what you do when you're left to your own devices. And then I'm asking her to track. So she's been doing that. And slowly over time, her fat is creeping up and her protein is creeping down. And I said, are you watching yourself? This is your tendency. So let's talk about it. And so we kind of came up with some strategies. And that's just literally learning how to create a new lifestyle practice. Her lifestyle practice is to go to Caribou Coffee and order a breve. Okay, that has 550 calories and it's all fat. And I said, I'm not criticizing at all fat. I'm not demonizing fat. That is fantastic. But right now, we're still trying to take a lot of excess fat off your body.
Yep.
So when we're then putting in an endogenous source of fat like that, by the way, has no nutritional value. It's not like you're eating an avocado with the other things, right?
You're killing it right now. I'm taking notes as you're talking, and like all the things I want to say, you're starting to get into. It's like, oh my God, I love this.
Total unagi. Yes.
Yeah. So there's two things. There's two things that there's one thing you mentioned earlier, and then you were just about to get into the next thing.
Yeah.
First off is there's two A words. One is appropriate, the other one's adequate. And I don't think we use them enough. I think we overuse how much should I versus how much do I need and what is working for me. And I think if we can change the whole discussion when it comes to all of it, exercise, nutrition, everything, is am I getting enough? And is it appropriate for my goals and where I'm at right now? Sure. That's the discussion that we need to have. And I don't think we talk about that. Everyone wants to be in extremes or locked into one specific way of doing things. And then the other piece, which you were just talking about, I love how you said the nutritional value, macros are not nutrition.
Yes.
And that is a huge concept that I think people need to understand.
Yes. I'm going to say that to my clients now. I'm taking that from you. I will footnote you. Everyone says you can if you steal something from someone, you have to footnote them for a year, and then all of a sudden you can say it without footnoting.
I love it.
I don't know. But that is fantastic. Macros are not, they don't equal nutrition.
No.
It's so true.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Instead of just, did I hit my macros, bro, type of it mentality around food, it's like, did the macros that I actually ate contain the nutrition that my body needs?
What is it doing for me? Absolutely.
Fantastic.
100%. Yeah. You're familiar with Marty Kendall?
Yes.
And optimizing nutrition. That's where a lot of my understanding of nutrient density, bioavailability, satiety, a lot of that stuff was a lot of his work and talking with him and doing things, and some stuff with Ted Neiman. But just the whole concept of focusing on nutrient density first.
Yes.
Macros come like if you do nutrient dense stuff, you're naturally going to be in a macro range that's probably going to do good things for you.
I'll give your listeners a perfect example using myself. Okay. Yeah. Before I started prepping this month for my show, which of course, when you're prepping for a bodybuilding show, at least the way I do it, you're eating all real food.
Mhm.
So it's all real food with some protein powder, like 1 serving a day. But
Yeah.
otherwise it's chicken, it's shrimp, it's beef, it's salmon, it's egg whites, it's all those things. Up until I started prepping and before I left for this vacation, which was sort of my stop, I went on vacation, came back, did a fast, and then started prepping. Before that, like let's say February, March, April of this year, I was having the hardest time feeling satiated at all. And I would
Mhm.
be at like, this is too high for me. I was at like 2,400 calories. And I'm looking at my chronometer and I'm like, what? I'm still hungry. This is crazy. And
Yeah.
so I started to figure out, do I have a leptin issue? Do I have a, I was really kind of going down these rabbit holes. And I do think leptin was a huge component of it, but
Mhm.
why? Because I was reaching for bars. I was having too many snack foods. I wasn't sitting down to full meals. Now I'm in prep. Okay. And I want everyone to hear this because it's so valuable. I'm in my second or third day of prep. I had a day, Bronson, where I was so stuffed at 1,250 calories of real food, I
Real
couldn't eat
food.
anymore. And I thought,
Absolutely.
holy, you know what? That is 1,000 calories less than I was eating before, thinking I must just have a tapeworm. I mean, something else is eating. I was like, this is insane. And thought I was a bottomless pit, but it's because of what I was eating. It was
Yep.
the what? It was the nutrient density wasn't as adequate as it had been. I'd kind of been letting myself slide. I'd been reaching for more bars and fast food. I was eating and pushing too hard on some of the fats. So my caloric density was going up. And I wasn't eating the more satiating, I always call it skillet meals, grass-fed ground beef, broccoli, garlic, onions, maybe some avocado. You're going to be so full from that meal for hours.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's helpful.
No, that's absolutely helpful. I think it goes to show the importance of it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum of what you want to call your nutrient lifestyle, your nutrition lifestyle. What matters at the core is nutrient density, bioavailability, and satiety. So if you're cutting out processed food, cutting out seed oils, and you're going to, if it grew out of the ground, if it had a mother, if those are the two criteria of what you're choosing to eat, you're going to be in a better position regardless of anything else.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a great way to say it.
Fantastic.
Very
That's
true.
awesome. What is let's talk real quick. You were to swing back to the body composition and how your body changes. One of the things that I see with women, and I'm wondering if you have a recommendation or a guideline that you go off of, because I'm still trying to find something that makes sense without the problem, the struggle that we have, I know that I have, is when I make a recommendation, then all of a sudden people take it as a hard and fast rule. That's how things have to be. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, I'm trying to give you an idea of where to be, not saying this is the rule, right? There's no rules. The only rule that matters is it working for you? And
Right.
there's an area like I want people to try to fit into if they can, but if they don't, that's fine, But I see two types of women, particularly that I work with. The ones that are overweight or skinny fat, who need to lose body fat, but they also need to build muscle. So my recommendation is, 22 to 24% body fat is a healthy range, not too much, not too little for women. And 40% skeletal muscle mass is a good target for women who need to build more mass. So usually most women that I work with are in the 32 to 34 range. And it's like, look, we need to get you a little bit more so you can have a little more strength, resiliency, all the
Yep.
good things. I've got another side of women who are on the far other spectrum where they are like 18, 17% body fat and like 42, 43% lean mass because they're so lean,
Mm-hmm.
but they're probably 15, 20 pounds underweight because they've been cardio queens, starving themselves, and they have almost as many, if not more, metabolic issues because they are so lean and so under muscled that the
Mm-hmm.
issues that they're having almost mimic those women who are also over fat and under muscled. Like trying to tell
Interesting.
them, like, look, yeah, you're at 45% lean mass, which is above the target, but that target doesn't mean anything when you're 15, 20 pounds underweight.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you talk to women? Do you ever have to have those types of conversations with women and say, look, you need to put on 15 pounds?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I definitely, the large majority of people who hire me are looking to lose body fat and increase
Hmm.
lean muscle tissue. Every once in a while, someone will hire me and their bod pod, because I use bod pods in my practice, or
Okay.
DEXA
Yep.
scans because they're the most
Yep.
accurate. So their bod pod will show that they're in the low 20s. I've had a couple clients start with under 20% body fat. And then the goal for them is really, they hired me because they really want to work on energy, but they want to
Mm.
learn how to eat healthier. They want to learn how to feel better. They might have digestive issues. So we're doing different things. But
Hmm.
for them, I'm still for them, because if I see they have low lean mass, my goal is to build their lean muscle tissue.
Yeah.
I'm saying we are starting at a non-negotiable, and I'll prep this for them, obviously, in their meal plans that I'm writing, but non-negotiable, I really want to focus on getting at least 30% of high quality protein each
Mm.
day.
Okay. Yep.
And
Yep.
so, some of my clients are up to 35%. Every once in a while, a client will have a day where it's like 40%, but I really
What?
like to stick. I know, crazy, right? Right now, I'm probably closer to 50. It's disturbing because I'm in prep, but I do think that the focus still needs to be on the protein in both of those categories of women that you just identified,
Absolutely.
because it's
Absolutely.
a under muscling issue, which of course Dr. Gabrielle Lyon is most known for. And that is really the solving that problem over time for those people, and having those people solve that problem for themselves, is going to change their whole metabolic health, as we know.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Muscle solves a lot of problems. I say that all the time.
It really does.
What is so talking about nutrition for building muscle, more protein, we talk about lifestyle, more sleep. Those are the two main things. What about exercise? Now, you are a fan of HIIT, body by
Mhm.
science style workouts. What are you doing right now for your workout routine?
So I always tell clients, I'll say what I'm doing and what clients do. I tell clients
Yeah.
when they hire me, if they're on a journey, if I can get them strength training intensely twice a week, full body
Yeah.
twice a week, and walking at least 10,000 steps a day to start, I'm happy. I want
Okay.
those two things. And the reason I say that, Bronson, is because our metabolism is made up of 4 parts.
Mhm.
60 to 70% of our metabolism is made up of our resting metabolic rate. How many calories are you burning if you lay in bed all day, don't get up to brush your teeth, don't pee, don't blink? What is your resting metabolic rate? And that is a function of how much lean tissue do you have on your body. So the
Yes.
more lean tissue I can put on your body, the higher your metabolism, the faster your metabolism. But the second most important part of our metabolism, which makes up 15 to 20% of it, is something called NEAT, which I know you know what that means. So
Mhm.
that is sweeping, taking out the dishes, taking out the garbage, easy walk with the dogs. It's everything that we're doing for movement, even me right now talking with my hands, other than intentional exercise. So I really want my clients, because I'm looking for efficiency with them. What is the best bang for your buck? And that
Yep.
is, I would rather, instead of you going and crushing an hour of Orange Theory in the morning and then sitting at your desk all day and never moving, right? And not strength training other than whatever you're doing in that class. I
Yep.
would rather we spent your time intensely lifting 2, maybe 3 times a week for some people, and then making sure we're taking like 15-minute walk morning, 15, 20-minute walk lunch, 15-minute walk afternoon, getting all of that movement throughout the day, just because metabolically it's better for them. Because
Gotcha.
TEF and TEE, thermic effective exercise and thermic effective food, are the third and fourth
Mhm.
parts of our metabolism, and they just don't give us as much bang for our buck as you get from the other two. They're like 5 to 10% for the exercise and 10 to 15 for the food. It's just not that much. So
Okay.
for me, when I strength train, I go real hard every time. And so I have to have 72 hours between my workouts. Meaning, tomorrow morning, I'm going to strength train really hard. I'm going to lift heavy in the morning. It's a full body workout. I do one set of everything, and every set is to total failure. I
Yep.
may do a fair amount of pre-exhaust stuff too. Like I might pull on a pec fly before I go over to chest press, just so I
Mhm.
pre-exhaust. I do some of that, but I will do that exercise tomorrow, and I won't come back and do another strength training session because tomorrow's Sunday. I won't do that until Wednesday. And then
Okay.
I'll do another one on Saturday, and then I'll do it again on Tuesday, and then I'll do
Yep.
it again on Friday, and then Monday, and then Thursday. And I just rotate that schedule
Okay.
because the research shows that when we really intensely strength train tissue, you are your weakest about 48 hours later in that muscle group. So you
Mhm.
could do upper body one day and lower body the next day and be fine. But I'm looking for efficiency. So I wanted to say how, little can I go to the gym and still get
I don't want to be here.
yeah, and the reality is I do. I mean, I would lift every day. I just know it's not as good for me. It's going to cut the beans. So I do other stuff. I do other classes, but right now, as I'm getting ready for the show, my quote unquote cardio is walking. I'm not doing much running. I'm doing some sprinting on the treadmill and a couple other classes just that are heated for the sweat that I really enjoy. But even those classes have like the 3 or 5 pound weights and you're doing some of the really small muscle stuff. I always say that workout that I do, it's called bar sport. It's complementary to the strength training of the big muscle groups. It's not in place of, it's complementary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that really rounds out my shoulder caps, things that I need to, get judged on stage.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So what do you have to share as we wrap up with people listening about fitness and how you view its role in the overall picture of all the things that we have to talk about?
Okay. So what is the cheesy saying? Like nutrition is king, fitness is queen, or exercise is queen, and together we have a kingdom.
I don't think I've ever heard that one. Okay. I like that.
Yes. So with the two of them, you have a kingdom, which is fantastic. I think they go hand in hand. But I think if I could just impart anything on your listeners that I think might be the most valuable, helpful takeaway, and I talk about this a lot with my clients, I'm asking you to consider doing something for 30 days. That's it. We're going to do these month-long experiments with ourselves. Maybe you want to try carnivore for 30 days. Maybe you want to try seeing if you can strength train consistently on certain days of the week for 30 days. Maybe you want to try. So doing something that's a smaller bite so that you don't feel so overwhelmed with here, the example person sits at, let's say, with 100 or 200 excess pounds on their body, and it seems so overwhelming to start. They don't even know what to do. I always say start in 30-day increments, because in those 30-day increments, we start to learn habits that allow us to make it a lifestyle. I really want exercise to become a part of people's lifestyle. I make all of my clients get a stand-sit desk. I said, you are not allowed to sit all day long. That's huge.
I love it.
I've even written legal letters so that they can have it as an excuse at work that says they need it for their health, because I'm a nutritional therapist, I can write that. So I really, really want to support people in how do we look at sort of the whole 360 picture of our health, which is what are we putting in our body? How are we spending our time? What are we consuming, in terms of our mind and in our mouth? Really just thinking about doing things in some smaller experiments so that it doesn't seem as intimidating. But I think just sort of to put a bow on everything that we've talked about, to me, there is no greater investment than you can make in yourself. And the two easiest ways to do that are to say, what am I fueling my body with every day? And what am I doing for movement? Those are two ways that it doesn't have to be, how many books did I read this week? How many degrees do I have in education? How many friends have I called in the last 2 weeks? Focus on yourself first, and all of that stuff will get better. All of it.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. That reinforces the message of it's okay to experiment. You don't have to stick with one thing forever. Things will change, and it's okay to experiment and try something new. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Kristen, for being on. I appreciate it. Where can people find you and follow you and get all your stuff?
Thank you. My Instagram is probably where I'm most active, and that is MN, like Minnesota, MN Golden Girl. I have a website, which is Energetically Efficient, and my Instagram and YouTube, Energetically Efficient has a YouTube page. All of those things are linked there.
Okay. Fantastic. I'll put all that stuff in there. Thanks again for being on. I appreciate it.
Yes, it was so great. Thanks, Bronson. I appreciate it.